most people believe that spirituality is a retreat from the world, a path of poverty, passivity, and checking out. But what if I told you that the greatest spiritual texts in history weren't written for monks in caves, but for warriors on battlefields and kings in palaces? Welcome to Rise and Prosper with Jay Lakhani. Today, we are shattering the myth that you have to choose between a calm mind and a fat bank account. We are exploring how the Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta provide the ultimate blueprint for the modern capitalist. If you've ever felt that your ambition was at odds with your inner peace, this episode is your permission slip to achieve at the highest level without losing your soul. These are the 7 life lessons to master the self. For thousands of years, the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita and the philosophy of Upanishads have guided seekers toward freedom, clarity, and inner peace. Vedanta teaches that the world we perceive is not ultimate reality. What we see is filtered through Maya, illusion, which veils the deeper truth of the self, Atman. The Gita reminds us that beneath our changing experiences lies an unchanging spiritual essence. Here are 7 life lessons from Vedantic wisdom, each grounded in the Bhagavad Gita and illustrated through real-life examples. 1. Find yourself in solitude. The Gita teaches the importance of inner withdrawal and contemplation. Bhagavad Gita 6.10. Let the yogi retire into solitude and constantly engage in meditation alone, with mind and body controlled. Here I must stress that Vedanta does not promote loneliness, it promotes conscious solitude. Solitude is where self-knowledge arises. When external noise quiets, we encounter our true nature, and you are able to look within. Modern life is filled with distractions, social media, deadlines, endless stimulation. Without deliberate solitude, we lose connection with our higher purpose. Gandhi regularly practiced silence, mauna, and spent time in reflection. His solitude was not withdrawal. It strengthened his clarity, conviction, and moral power. Key action point: schedule time alone for meditation, journaling, reflection, or silent walks. Solitude is not escape, it is alignment. 2. True happiness is the removal of suffering. Vedanta defines happiness not as excitement or pleasure, but as freedom from inner disturbance. Bhagavad Gita 2.14. The contacts of the senses with objects give rise to cold and heat, pleasure and pain. They come and go, endure them patiently. Pleasure is temporary. Real happiness comes when we reduce attachment, remove ignorance, and face the root causes of suffering. If you hate your job but distract yourself with shopping or entertainment, you postpone the real solution. Vedanta teaches courage. Remove the root, not the symptom. Oprah Winfrey faced poverty and trauma early in life. Rather than escaping pain, she confronted it, sought growth, and built a life rooted in meaning rather than distraction. Action point: instead of chasing pleasure, ask, what is the root of my dissatisfaction? Remove that, and peace follows. 3. Understand the mind and its conditioning. Vedanta explains that the uncontrolled mind drives our suffering. Bhagavad Gita 6.5. One must elevate oneself by the mind, not degrade oneself. The mind can be the friend of the self, and the mind can also be the enemy. The Gita teaches that we are not the restless mind, we are the witness of it. When unaware, habits control us. When conscious, we guide them gently. Sudden, extreme change often backfires. Steady discipline transforms the mind gradually. So here the key is to be consistent. A very good example is Novak Djokovic, who emphasizes meditation, mental training, and incremental discipline. His success is not just physical, it is mastery of the inner game. Action point: introduce small, consistent habits. Prosody mind patiently, not violently. 4. Limit expectations and practice detachment. One of the most powerful teachings of the Gita is detachment from outcomes. Bhagavad Gita 2.4.7. You have a right to perform your actions, but never to the fruits of those actions. Expectations create anxiety. Attachment to results creates suffering. Vedanta does not say do nothing. It says act fully but release the outcome. When we measure our worth by status, recognition, or comparison, we bind ourselves. A very good example is of the Indian industrialist Ratan Tata. He focused on long-term integrity and contribution rather than short-term applause. His leadership reflected responsibility over ego. Action point: focus on effort, not applause. Work sincerely, release the results. 5. Compassion is the foundation of Dharma. Vedanta teaches unity. The same consciousness exists in all beings. Bhagavad Gita 12.13. Krishna says that he who hates no being, who is friendly and compassionate to all, that devotee is dear to me. If the same self lives in all, harming others is ignorance. Compassion becomes not just moral, but spiritual. Helping others brings alignment with Dharma, righteous living. A very good example is Princess Diana. She used her global fame to remove the stigma from HIV/AIDS, leprosy, and landmine victims, visiting hospitals and dangerous areas personally to offer comfort. Action point: speak and act in ways that reduce suffering. Even small kindness matters. 6. Rise above the cycle of pleasure and boredom. The Gita explains that chasing sensory pleasure leads to restlessness. Bhagavad Gita 5.22. Pleasures born of sense contact are sources of suffering. They have a beginning and an end. When pain disappears, boredom arises. When boredom arises, new desires form. This endless loop keeps the mind agitated. Vedanta teaches inner fulfillment, not stimulation. Gratitude, meditation, and self-awareness break the cycle. A very good example is Keanu Reeves. Despite fame and wealth, Reeves lives simply and avoids indulgent excess. His grounded lifestyle reflects inner orientation over outer glamour. Action point: reduce dependency on external excitement. Cultivate inner steadiness. 7. Art as a gateway to the higher self. Vedanta teaches that beauty can elevate consciousness. Bhagavad Gita 10.41. Whatever is glorious, beautiful, or powerful, know that to be a spark of my splendor. Art, music, poetry, and creativity can momentarily quiet the ego and reveal transcendence. In moments of deep artistic absorption, the restless mind pauses and we glimpse something timeless. A very good example is Rabindranath Tagore, the mystical creator. Tagore's spirituality was deeply rooted in the Upanishads, but he expressed it through a religion of man, where art was the highest expression of the human spirit. He viewed the universe as a dance of joy and believed that through poetry, music, and later his paintings, he could tap into the infinite action point. Include real art in your life. Let beauty refine your perception and uplift your consciousness. Final reflection. It is a common misconception that spirituality requires a vow of poverty or a retreat to a cave. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita was delivered not to a monk, but to a warrior prince on a battlefield who had a kingdom to win. The secret to combining inner peace with outward conquest lies in the concept of nishkama karma, action without attachment to the fruit. The formula for spiritual materialism. To achieve tremendous success while remaining anchored in the higher self, one must master 3 specific Vedantic shifts. Detached engagement. You work with 100% intensity because you view your work as an offering, yajna, but your happiness is not held hostage by the outcome. This lack of anxiety actually makes you more effective as you don't freeze up under pressure. Focus on the process, not the prize. When you are obsessed with the goal, your mind is in the future. When you are focused on the dharma, duty of the present moment, you achieve a state of flow. Excellence is a natural byproduct of a mind that isn't divided by worry. The instrument mindset. You stop seeing yourself as the doer and start seeing yourself as an instrument of a larger universal force. This removes the ego clutter that leads to burnout and fatigue. The ultimate example, Janaka, the philosopher king. In Indian tradition, King Janaka, the father of Sita, is the gold standard for someone who achieved the pinnacle of material power and spiritual enlightenment simultaneously. The material success. Janaka ruled the vast kingdom of Mithila. He was responsible for the economy, the military, the judiciary, and the welfare of millions. He lived in a palace, wore silks and jewels, and managed the complexities of statecraft. The spiritual height. Despite his wealth, he was known as Videha, one who is beyond the body. He was a fully realized sage. Great monks and ascetics would travel from the forest to the city just to learn from him how to remain in the world but not of it. The bowl of milk story. Legend says a monk once doubted Janaka's spirituality because of his luxury. Janaka asked the monk to walk through the palace with a bowl of milk filled to the very brim, under the threat that if a single drop fell, he would be punished. The monk finished the walk without spilling a drop. Janaka asked, "What did you see in the palace?" The monk replied, "Nothing but the milk." Janaka said, "That is how I live. My eyes are on the kingdom, but my mind is on the divine." as most of my followers know that I am a financial markets trader, so how have I used Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita to achieve success, at the same time being detached from material wealth? In the high-stakes world of financial markets, the restless mind is your greatest liability. Trading is perhaps the ultimate modern Kurukshetra, a battlefield where your internal ego, fear, and greed are reflected instantly in your profit and loss. To use the markets as a path to the higher self while achieving material abundance, you can apply the Vedantic Trader Framework. The Vedantic Trader Framework 1. The witness at the terminal, Sakshi. In trading, most losses come from revenge trading, or FOMO. These are emotional reactions. The shift. You are not the trade. You are the witness of the trade. The practice. When a stop loss is hit, observe the rising heat of frustration in your body. By witnessing it rather than becoming it, you disconnect the ego from the equity curve. You remain the silent observer while the executing self follows the plan. 2. Dharma-based execution, the system. In Vedanta, Dharma is your right action in any given moment. In trading, your Dharma is your trading plan. The shift. Success is not measured by the dollar amount made today, but by how perfectly you aligned with your Dharma, your rules. The practice. If you followed your risk management perfectly but lost money, you have succeeded spiritually and professionally. If you broke your rules and made money, you have failed because you have fed the adharma of the ego, which will eventually lead to a blowout. 3. Equanimity in volatility. The Bhagavad Gita defines yoga as evenness of mind. The shift. Treat a green day and a red day as two imposters. The practice. Do not let a windfall make you feel like a god. And do not let a drawdown make you feel worthless. By staying in the center, you avoid the emotional exhaustion that causes most traders to quit. Conclusion. The markets do not care about your desires, but they deeply reward your discipline. By adopting the Vedantic lens, you stop trading for the thrill or the fix and start trading as a karma yogi. You provide liquidity to the world, you manage risk with the precision of a surgeon, and you accept the fruits of the market with the humility of a devotee. In this state, material success isn't something you chase. It is the natural resonance of a mind that has mastered itself. You become like King Janaka, a master of the marketplace, while remaining a sage of the self. The final word. True mastery of the markets is not found in a better indicator or a faster algorithm. It is found in the stillness between the breaths. When you trade from the higher self, you stop fighting the charts and start flowing with them. If this perspective shifted your lens on success today, like and share this with a fellow seeker or trader who needs to find their center. Let's start a conversation in the comments. Which of these principles, the witness, dharma, or equanimity, is the missing piece in your current strategy? Let's build a community of sovereign traders who conquer the world without losing their soul. Best wishes from Jay Lakhani. May you achieve abundant joy, happiness, and success in life.